Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just want to do a sort of a random video. I'm going to post a couple. I sent an email to Ravi Zacharias Ministry, and I got a response about Flat Earth. I'm going to post a video on that in a second. But I also want to talk about Ball Earth and really boil this whole thing down to one observable reality, and that's the movement of the Earth. And so the alleged movement of the Earth. So, you know, every day I wake up, look outside, got all these high-rise buildings in Houston. I live in one. The claim is that that these buildings move, you know, and really the amount that they move, or the rate that they move, and all that kind of stuff is, to me, not as important as just the fact that people believe that, and we've all been programmed at some point in our life to believe that they're moving in a three-dimensional space. And really, if that's not the case, how, to me, things fall apart very, very quickly. So, to me, if the Earth is flat, we're in the end times. And even taking that one step deeper, really, if these buildings are not moving, we're in the end times, because the whole narrative of the Ball Earth heliocentric model will fall apart, you know, if the Earth is not moving. You know, there's no way they can sort of backpedal from that, or just, you know, say, no, everything is pretty much correct, except we're still on a ball, but the sun is moving now, or something like that, you know, to create day and night, you know, and that type of thing. So they can't just sort of, you know, adjust the model, you know, to suit what many of us now know, that we're not moving at all. So everything falls apart. All the NASA images that show, you know, the Earth turning, the TV shows as the world turns, all that kind of stuff, all this notion, all these sort of programming, you know, that's been done to get us to believe that the Earth moves, would fall apart. And so, you know, we throw all of it out, you know, and then we'd just be left with what I think we now have is, how does a local sun operate across a surface? You know, and we could still entertain the idea that it's not flat just to be rigorous, which I think is always a good thing from a purely mathematical perspective. But, you know, we could now eliminate the variable of the ground moving. And so, and start exploring that way. But to me, again, like, just, there's not multiple options here. It's kind of like the way it is. I think that it's fair to say that either you know, the heliocentric model is correct, or the biblical understanding is correct. And to me, there's no compelling reason to entertain any other options. You know, that would be extremely confusing. If both were wrong, then it's like, I don't even know what to say. Like, that would just be a world that, again, just bad luck. You know, we're all stupid. Just certain people are dumber than the others, which actually I believe is true. Anyway, I do believe we've all been made retarded by God, but just some of us are like less retarded than others, whoever ends up being right. And I obviously believe that we're on a flat stationary Earth, but so we're the less retarded ones. But that would be strange if there was a third case that is not fully explained by the current understanding in modern day science or the Bible. You know, then I just be like, then I really wouldn't care. I'll be just like, whatever, like, this whole thing is stupid, and just seek pleasure, don't hurt people, do whatever you need to do. That would be my motto for life if there was a third geometry that was true. I don't think we need to entertain that. But so, just from the fact that these buildings are not spinning, which is self-evident to us now, to me, puts us in the end times. Because that would be a pretty massive, and I sort of motivated by this, just hearing a little bit of the debate on Oakley's channel. Riley's like writing a paper, going like the legal route and stuff like that. It's like, I think he knows, I mean, it's hard for me to tell how people on the truth side can play dumb, but, you know, I'm not putting anything past the world right now. And this is not a personal shot to him, but how people can be genuine flat earthers, and somebody like him who's deep in it, I would say, and I suspect he's very sincere about his beliefs because he's been pushing this for a while. I don't think people can act for that long. You know, people like Fight the Flat Earth at the beginning, you know, late last year, he kind of came on the scene. I was like, whatever, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe genuinely believes he's on a ball. Now we know that he's acting and just lying about everything. So Riley's been on the scene for even longer. So I do believe these people know that the earth is geometrically flat and not moving, but how he can go and say that, you know, lobby for education change and all this kind of stuff. And like, anybody who says that God's not behind the deception, to me, is just out of their mind at this point. Like, who else can architect something like this and create so many Ball Earth shills? You know, people who are adamantly pushing Ball Earth to the point of like going after people's careers, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Like, they care a lot, you know, about the Ball Earth, and that can only be from God, you know. And then even more detailed, the deception being a hijacking of the human eye and optics and stuff like that. So it's clever, and it's brilliant, and it's widespread, and that's God. You know, that only God can orchestrate the Ball Earth deception and things like the mark of the beast, and even Jesus' skin color as well. So all these kind of things are God. I mean, there's no doubt at that point. Like, that's silly. And so to me, then we'd have to, for those who know that that's the case, the end times becomes very, very obvious, you know. And I think that all things lead to the fact that we're in the end times, because there's no way that God would deceive the entire world through Ball Earth programming. Literally everybody have been touched by it, you know, in some way. We've had to witness it, or, you know, it's affected our education and all that, and to some extent even our emotions, because, like, again, Ball Earth is the root, at its root, is to support atheism. So it's affected us literally from every single direction. And so that would be a stupid conspiracy in and of itself, to believe that all that was just done by chance, you know. And it's just been coming out in more fervor in the last decade or so, just by coincidence. You know, there's no way. And really the reality of it is the technology could have been, that have spoken out against the Ball Earth we could have been doing this a while ago. You know, it's not like it's gotten super sophisticated yet, and I suspect that it won't. Just looking at some of the debates, there's like ladies' night and stuff like that. Like, it's kind of a joke now. And it looks like it's going to be a permanent joke. It's people just going to stick to images and gas pressure without a container and stuff like that. So, which again, to me, further reaffirms that we're in the end times, because God now has brought out the truth, and then now he's throttling it and in many ways constipating it so it won't advance. That also, to me, reaffirms to me that we're at the end. That this is all very, very much planned, you know, and orchestrated. So it's truth has to come out, but it's not going to win. It just has to, like, stick its head out the door. And thankfully, I'm glad I received it, because it's obvious, you know, that we're not spinning. And so once we know we're not spinning, we know that there's something else going on. There's some other truth out there. And to me, you know, just that alone validates Joshua 10, 12 to 14, that supports the fact that we're not moving. And then their observation, you know, of those people in those times. And so I'm talking to this individual from Arzim, and they're like, basically like, you know, the people in the past, they didn't know what they're looking at. It's all that, like, they're just, everybody thinks that the people in the past were stupid when we're the idiots. Come on, like, look how stupid our education system is. They, like, teach us a bunch of things. We get tested on stuff. We don't even know history. We don't know anything. We have to go to school for like 20, 30 years just to figure out basic things of like accounting and math and science. It's just, none of this stuff is complicated. We're the dumbest generation in human history. We would have to be, because this is all a precursor to the mark of the beast. And people, and I've caught myself thinking this many times, like, oh, we got to get this truth out. People need to know, you know, around the world about flat earth and other things. A lot of people know that the moon landing was fake. You know, I remember reading an article a while back that, like, a lot of the Russian people know that the moon landing was a hoax. So they know that not to trust anything really that comes out of American corporate media in particular. So we're catching up. We're the dumb ones, you know. It's like, we don't have to always be cavalier. I'm speaking to myself about getting the truth out. People know these things, that God exists, the media's fake, the money system's satanic, there's a beginning, therefore there has to be an end. People know this kind of stuff. UFOs are real, all this kind of stuff. Jesus is black. You know, there are images of Jesus in other parts of the world that portray him exactly what he would look like. You know, it's like we're the ones, this is why America is the root of a lot of these evils, is this is where truth was killed. This is where it says spiritually our Lord was crucified in the book of Revelation. And Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So the way was crucified here, truth was crucified here, and life was crucified here. Just look at abortions and all the death that's around us. Jesus was killed here in America, spiritually. And obviously his physical death was in the ancient times, you know, in the Middle East, but he's been spiritually crucified here in America as the ringleader. And so people are not stupid like us, just to put it bluntly, us Americans, people on, quote, this side of the flat earth. So just be aware of that, you know, and I think that shouldn't ever, you know, demotivate us to go and share the truth. Of course, do it. I think we'll find that there's a lot of people who already knew these kind of things. Like, I've had a few encounters with people who've known that Jesus was dark-skinned. Like, they're not even dark-skinned people necessarily who would, quote, benefit from that truth. They're just like, yeah, it's obvious. You know, we know that he's not white. That's what they say. And so, you know, it's, I'm sort of catching up to it again. I'm very thankful for it. But we can't think that God's not already been teaching people these things for many, many years. People just know these things. These things now, like buildings not moving, are self-evident. If you just ask somebody, even if they've never thought about it in their life, they'll be like, yeah, it's not moving. You know, and then if they were to pursue that truth further, it would link up with other truths that they already sort of know. So, you know, to me, I think for the most part, people sort of believe what they've been assigned, you know, and again, I'm very thankful that these have trickled down to me. But the truth's not going to win. You know, like Riley's writing a paper, trying to get stuff. It's like everything about our system worldwide is about enslavement. Every corporation, everything, our governments, all the tech that we have, all the mindsets, and I'm talking worldwide, is just to enslave. We can't like start fresh. This enslavement has to be fully bloomed. It has to express itself fully, in my opinion, in the mark of the beast. We can't just turn this thing around, and it would take many, many generations, because like all these buildings would have to be removed, and we would have to live off the land. You know, there would be no other way. People would have to be given a portion of land, and then that still would take a long time, and then we need something to do. And so that's why what we've been given to do in this generation is to be enslaved, whether people like that or not. I don't, but I've come to the reality of it now that that's the case, and it's evident on the truth side as well. That, you know, that's all we're allowed to do, is to be enslaved and allow the system to just fully express itself spiritually, economically, scientifically, and all that kind of stuff. So that's where we're at. That would be a pretty big coincidence to think that flat earth came out and then the entire world was deceived, and you know, God's just sort of reorienting the world now towards flat earth. No, there's nothing to do now. If the earth is flat, what are we supposed to do? All the structures in place, like I said, are there to enslave. And that would be a very, very evil God, in my opinion. It's one thing to deceive a certain group of people, or evil in pockets, which one would think has existed throughout human history. But we've all been intellectually enslaved, which to me is even more sinister than financial enslavement. Because, you know, it's one thing to be financially enslaved. To some extent, it still gives us something to do, you know, if we're like in school, but they're charging us way too much. At least we have something to do to pass the time, even if we're like learning some of the wrong things, in my opinion, a lot of wrong things in the wrong way and all that. But when we're spiritually deceived, it puts our heart in the wrong place. You know, it will cause us to even worship those things, you know, that are inherently evil. And so that's the more sinister deception, when we're being lied to about our reality, God's existence and stuff like that. It causes us to be, to take those things that we've been forced to do in some cases and worship them, you know, and replace God with them. And that's the part that's incredibly evil, you know, about this ball earth deception, is that our very first commandment to love God with all of our heart has been replaced with loving school, loving physical things, loving science, loving people with who are rich, powerful, have influence and all that kind of stuff. Like they pick all of those too as well. So it's a bait and switch. You know, we're baited in by this spinning ball that atheism is underpinned by. Even if we're not quote unquote atheists, that aura has permeated the earth because of the spinning ball earth. And so that is the most evil aspect of this deception. And one would think that it being undone, you know, through the non-spinning earth reality would not be just a coincidence. So I'm pretty sure we're close to the end. There's more stuff in the news now about UFOs. And for those who have an ear to hear, those are the vehicles that God's elect will be rescued with. And if we're not on that list, that's fine. But I wouldn't hang around too much longer after that. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.